What's up,
Hello,
Steve?
all.
How you doing?
I am doing fantastic.
That's good.
Winning football, always fun to cover. Got you feeling good even on a short week, no matter what, because we're streaking now. Hey.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I don't even want to think about like how quickly this week has to turn around. Like by tomorrow, I'm just gonna be like in a daze.
And then
So I can,
just right in time for the holidays, too. So it's like bam, 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 all that on top of it, too.
yeah, I'm gonna have to do my holiday shopping out in LA
Oh.
and then keep it there. Yeah. Well, why don't we just get right? It's already late, so why don't we just get right into this? People can find us as we go. So why don't you just kick us off here and we'll
Gotcha.
dive right in.
Week 15 is a wrap in black and gold land, and we are inside black and gold. Steve Keller along with Jeff Nowak, a winning post-game podcast. Saints taking down the New York Giants 24-6, ending New York's 3-game win streak. The Saints have now won 2 in a row, and hey, Jeff, we are at 500, 7-7.
2 in a row.
Take it.
And, this game kind of went the way I thought it would go, believe it or not. Because I said, like, all day, like, this is a bad Giants team. I'm going to play some audio in a second to prove that to you. But, yeah, so we're going to get into it. It's going to be kind of our normal post-game pod, except I want to talk kind of more about, like, the big picture stuff this first segment. Second segment, we'll get into what did work, what didn't work. I want to talk more about Derek Carr in this first segment, though, because there's a lot to talk about with Derek Carr, and let's do it. And then the final segment's going to be a mailbag. So if you have questions, comments, whatever, throw them in there. I like to think that it's not going to be exclusively bench Derek Carr, fire everybody, but I've learned not to get my hopes up for that sort of thing. So
I'm expecting a lot of they beat a bad team, relax.
Yeah, sure. Except, like, it's not a given that you beat the bad teams. Just ask the Falcons.
Hey.
Well, I mean, like, all I heard was like, they beat the Panthers, but everyone can beat the Panthers. Well, apparently not, because the Falcons. I mean, it's like, how do you get your head coach fired, right? Like, I'm sure there's a decent number of Saints fans that wish they had done what the Falcons did, because I think when you're in the position that Arthur Smith is in, and then you lose 9-7 to a 1-12 football team. Yeah, I mean, you look at what happened with Brandon Staley, right? With the Chargers. I mean, you what was it, 63-14 or something like that? Like, that's how you get a coach fired. And the funny thing is, the Saints have had that opportunity. They had a chance. They had it right in front of them. They were down 21-0 in the first quarter to the Lions. That is the perfect setup for we're losing 63-14 and our head coach is fired, right? But They chose not to do that, and I think that's kind of telling. But so. To kind of give you some insight, if you didn't listen to First Take this morning, this is kind of the exasperated take I had as someone who knows the Giants well about what I needed the Saints to do. Oh no, did I lose it? Hold on, I got it. Don't worry about me.
Knowing of the G-Men's demise. Now we're on the Bet365 First Take, and Jeff,
we're doing it.
Man, 3 consecutive home games. After that, it seemed like a drought of being here. Now it's like, man, oh man, when are we going to play on the road again?
Yeah, well, there's only, I was thinking about that coming in. There's only 2 home games left, including this one.
Pretty
this
wild,
season,
right?
As frustrating as it has been at points, it flew by. I mean, this is the home stretch. This is the you do it or you don't.
The nitty-gritty
part of the year,
right?
And you got the Giants coming in. You got the Tommy Cutlett story, right? You got the 32nd ranked passing offense in the NFL. Like, I don't care how excited everyone is about Tommy DeVito. This is the number 32 passing offense in the NFL. This is not an offense that you should be scared of in any way. This is an offense you should dominate. It's an offense that a lot of teams have dominated. The Saints need to win this game.
What is scary, though? Darren Waller is back.
Give me that. Darren Waller is a shell of Darren Waller. If you're using Darren Waller as the reason the Saints should be shaking in their boots about this, no, This is a bad team. Go beat a bad team. I just think this is a game that, if the Saints want to be taken seriously over the final month of the season, they can't make this into a barn burner.
I agree with me. That was a good that's what this game was, right? This was a team that wants to believe that it's a good contending football team. Maybe not the Super Bowl favorite, but a team that should feel like it's a playoff team going up against a bad team that has beaten a couple bad teams and one decent team. That's also probably kind of bad at the end of the day in the Packers, right? And that's what it looked like today. That's what it was, right? That's Tommy DeVito was in over his head. The Giants offensive line couldn't block, right? They didn't have the playmakers. Even Saquon Barkley, he did nothing.
No.
And so the Saints, no, they're not perfect, but they did what I needed them to do today to give me some semblance of confidence that they might be able to pull this thing off, right? And the fact of the matter is, you still control your own destiny with 3 games left in the season. All you have to do is go out and win them. And I don't know what you look for as a football fan, but to me, that's exciting. To me, that's something that you should be excited about. And I think the fans in the stadium,
right?
I think the fans in the stadium today, they were in. It was sketchy at first. They had that first 3 and out. There was some boos. I heard them. But, they got on board quick. And there was a lot of Giants fans in that building. There's a lot of blue, but you didn't hear from them at all.
And I don't know why. I guess maybe that blue not sticking out as much as when when Detroit visited. That was really eye-popping, I guess, when you watch the stands. To me, it wasn't like I noticed a slew of Giants fans. I were aware they were here, though.
Well, I noticed them more prior to the game because they were there early, right?
Sure, yeah.
But I think if things went a certain way, you would have noticed the Giants fans because they would have been loud. But because you kind of took their soul away. I mean, they scored 6 points and you could argue that, the first one was gifted to them, that first drive on an actual penalty on JT
Right.
Gray kind of running into Jamie Gillen, which I've never understood. It's like, so if you get a block, you can do whatever you want. You could murder the guy. It's not a penalty. But if you miss, which is like he was an inch away from getting the block, but if you miss, it's a penalty. So it's like, it's such a weird kind of risk reward thing of trying to block a punt. But that was the right call. And so they end up getting 3 points on that. Then they end up getting another 3 points on one of the worst calls I've ever seen. You're going to have that hit on teach tape in a couple months. They're going to be like, this is how you should tackle people. Don't worry. They flagged it, but it's not wrong. Anyway, he got a flag for tackling. And, that was the other drive that ended in points. Jamie Gillen, the punter, made a field goal.
Yeah.
That was effectively a shutout when you really think about it. The Saints defense basically shut out the Giants in that game.
And thankfully, the loudest booing on the game was for the refs in that because of that call.
And who I feel like I hear someone else got involved in that and just.
Oh, yeah. The press box, you could hear boos raining down from the Cajun cannon. He was definitely not pleased. He thought the fix was in. Oh, you're just trying to help New York out. It's the New York market.
The conspiracies.
Yes.
Oh, God. I mean, that was terrible. And in a close game, man. That's bad.
There's nothing on replay to look at that. I just found that bizarre too. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's just these calls aren't that difficult. So it's funny because we're gonna. Yeah, I guess we could talk about that here, but they go on that call was made because of the sound, right?
Yeah.
When that call gets made, it's because he got hit hard and you heard a pop, and so they're gonna assume it's helmet to helmet, and he went in trying to get a hit. But it's you can't call stuff based on a sound because if you watched it, if you saw it, there's no way you thought that was an illegal hit. It's just it. I mean, what is he supposed to do? I guess it's because he went for a hit at all instead of just kind of wrapping him up, knowing that he had 20 yards to go. I think that's what it ended up being. Right? Is Alante went to give him a big hit. Rather than just being meh, I did a hand motion. If you're listening to this on the podcast version, there was a hand motion there. I kind of like a pouring a pitcher, kind of placing him on the ground. But it is funny because throughout the game there were several moments. There was like you sacked the quarterback 7 times, didn't get called for roughing.
That was one of my huge highlights. I was like, wow, this team is so good at not getting to the quarterback, taking him down, and not getting flagged for it, though. I was like, that was hella impressive this game for sure.
Well, I mean, and you go back and watch those sacks, and it's not by accident. Like, there was multiple times where they had him, and they were ready to kind of throw him down, but then they kind of just rolled off, like they were released. And it's like, that's just coaching. That's good tech. That's good technique in modern NFL, where they will call you if you do anything. And honestly, like that's pretty impressive. I agree with you that they were able to avoid any penalties. The only penalty they got called for, an unnecessary roughness, was a terrible one, and it had nothing to do with the quarterback.
Exactly. But yeah, that was definitely good to see the sack brigade back. Let's hope this is a trend that continues.
Agreed. And so I thought the atmosphere was pretty cool. It was nice because I haven't seen that in the Superdome in a while. And that includes like last year, right? Like it's been a while since the Saints put on a show in the Superdome for the fans, where it wasn't like the entire game you were just a giant ball of stress. You were just, having a good time. And obviously it was 7-6 at halftime, but it didn't feel like that. And it just like in that first drive of the third quarter to come out and for the long drive for a touchdown. And then it was like, you have the field goal, and it kind of felt like 11 points. If it wasn't for that other game that they had an 11-point lead, you'd been like, they can't blow this. But I talked to Keith Kirkwood after the game, and I thought what he had to say was interesting because Keith, people kind of forget probably that he was here in 2018. Like he knows what the atmosphere is like when things are rocking in the dome, right? Like he caught a touchdown in a playoff game. That was the last touchdown he caught. Was in 2018.
That was a perfect segue into it, right? That was the last freaking time he caught a touchdown.
2019 in the playoffs, technically, because it was the game against the Eagles. He caught a touchdown. I think he got hurt in that game because I don't think he played. And the rest of I think it was the Vikings. So that was the NFC Championship year, because that was 2018. But this is what you know what? None of my clips uploaded, so I'm just gonna do this again in real time. Just bear with me here. But yeah, so I talked to Keith Kirkwood in the locker room. If you've never gotten a chance to sit down and talk to Keith Kirkwood, like he is one of the easiest guys to root for. He's so positive all the time. And so like that's why I'm a Keith Kirkwood fan, because I've gotten a chance to just kind of sit and talk to the guy. And this is what he had to say.
I think everybody on this offense is starting to just believe in one another and playing for one another. And, we just continue to quiet the outside noise, because at the end of the day, it's just all of us in this locker room. And it ultimately shows.
Derek's taking some heat, but what did you make of the game today?
With Derek?
Yeah.
You know what I love about Derek? He quiets the noise. He doesn't care about what the outside thinks. He only cares about what the guys in the locker room feel. And every single day he shows up to work, and you see what it did. You see the outcome today. I mean, if you start to let that dictate your gameplay, then ultimately bad things will happen, right? But at the end of the day, he comes in and works every single day. He puts in the work, and he displays it on Sunday.
And I kind of mentioned touch on, but did it feel that long to you since is that something you just kind of get used to?
It's just every day. I just felt like I was just in practice. That's it. I just come every single day, willing to work and just do my job and execute, and it all turned out to be for the better.
This feel a little bit more like some of those 2018 games.
It sure did. The atmosphere, the crowd, just constantly, every single time we were in the red zone, being able to score, put points up. It's just unbelievable feeling. The energy, the intensity, everybody in the locker room, on the sideline. It was just unbelievable feeling. It definitely felt like 18, like I talked about before.
Yeah, I think when we talked earlier this season, you said like this offense kind of has a swagger to it.
Yes.
I think at points this year, it was fair to say, well, where is that?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like you're getting back to that a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think anybody on this offense lost faith in what we have going and what we have brewing. There was ups and downs, and obviously we wanted to continue to climb on a hill. But at the end of the day, we all stuck together, and we still continue to do what we have to do and just execute. And that's what happened today, and that's why we were able to have so much success on offense.
Gotcha. As someone who's been watching this team all season,
yes,
to see Jimmy Graham get in the end zone 3 weeks in a row, it kind of feels almost like a we're better than you moment.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the way to put it, but.
No, one thing about Jimmy, I get it, right? He was inactive a couple weeks, but Jimmy came to work every single day and still put the work in, and it showed. And he didn't let the negativity of people saying, "Oh, we need to put Jimmy Graham in," change who he is. He's still Jimmy Graham. So at the end of the day, you throw him in the red zone, he's going to catch passes and score touchdowns. And we're starting to see that. We're trusting in him, and we're also just trusting in this offense. And great things are happening. So I'm excited. It's a short week, but we're going to come back on Thursday and do the same thing. Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
The thing I was trying to go for there was like, it was like, because we're better than you and we know it. Globo Jim. See, I don't know if people get that reference. It's a dodgeball reference, but that's kind of like when Jimmy Graham catches a touchdown, you're just like, yeah, okay, we win. We're gonna win. That's it.
It's really odd, just though. I mean, you don't want to live in the past kind of deal, but really, like, what the heck was the deal? Why wasn't Jimmy around for that stretch? Because man, oh man, he's on a hell of a heater right now. I'll tell you that much.
I'm gonna live in the now, Steve. I'm gonna live in the now. But so it's funny. One of our coworkers, we were talking, like, she puts prop bets in on Jimmy Graham. She has won like $2,300 on prop bets on Jimmy Graham because the last 2 games she has bet Jimmy Graham anytime touchdown and also Jimmy Graham last touchdown. And so the Saints not scoring another touchdown. So like she won like $1,600 on prop bets because of Jimmy Graham touchdowns, which, man, why wasn't I doing that this whole time? And I know if I start now, he's not going to catch a touchdown the rest of the season because that's just how it works. And I don't want to do that to Saints fans. But no, I just think the atmosphere in the dome, the confidence level from everybody involved in this game, I think it showed. Like, I think you saw it at every level. And we can pretend the Giants are terrible, right? Which they are. They're not a good football team, but they're a league average team probably that was playing decent football. And at the end of the day, it's like their offense is kind of in shambles, particularly on the offensive line. That's a pretty good defense. Like, that's not a defense that is going to roll over, but the Saints were able to out-execute them today. And I think that's what stood out. Like, they didn't get any turnovers, right? The Saints didn't give the ball away. You only allowed 1 sack, right? That pressure that we were talking about all week didn't get home. You ran a lot of play action. You didn't get a lot over the top, but you were able to get a lot of good chunk plays. You got everyone involved. 10 players caught passes.
Yeah,
and
it felt like
I think
the old offense was back. It felt like there with everyone involved.
Well, that's what the offense is supposed to, like, that was the idea, right? That was, you were like, this is going to be an offense where you have all of these playmakers and you get them involved. And it was just, we haven't seen it. And I almost think not having Chris Olave in this game, not going to say it was helpful, but it did. And Derek Carr said this, it kind of forced them to work the ball around and kind of find ways to generate off of the other guys. And, whether it's Keith Kirkwood, A.T. Perry, Lynn Bowden, you had 5 different guys have 30-plus passing yards. Keith obviously didn't have 30-plus passing yards, but 5 different players in the Saints offense had over 30 yards receiving. I mean, I do think it's interesting. Chris Olave was a game-time decision. It always kind of felt like, it's like you play on Thursday, right? It's like, if you're going to have a guy gut through something, are you better off having a 60% Chris Olave twice or a 85% Chris Olave once in a game that you probably need the offense to win? And DA basically said that, and this is I asked him about that after the game. If I can find it. Hold on one second. Not being very, very effective here.
Chris.
Look, my plan was see where he was at this morning. If he felt good enough, I was going to get him out on the field and work him out. And I think, as he got here this morning, I don't think he felt like he was going to be able to go out and do the things that he needed to do to be effective. And, particularly with us playing a Thursday night game, trying to get him healthy and get him back, in for that game, I thought kind of went into that decision a little bit.
And so I think that's where you are, right? Like you knew that you probably could get it done today without him. It wasn't worth forcing it just to have a decoy out on the field. And hopefully you can get a, I don't know if he's going to be 100%, but something close to that on Thursday in a game where the Rams are a team that you're going to have to keep pace with. They're going to score. You're not going to have this type of, the last 2 weeks haven't allowed a touchdown. I don't think that's going to be the case on Thursday. You're going to have to score, and you're going to have to keep up with this team. And having Chris is a lot more important for that game, in my opinion. So I think they handled this well. They kept the illusion alive as long as possible, and they didn't make a bad decision in the end of the day.
No, Stafford and the Rams offense is going to be a lot scarier for sure. Obviously, the more accomplished quarterback and the way that offense has been humming of late with the run game. And, Kupp is healthy. You got Puka Nacua over there. So they got a nice little set of weapons to deal with. And I don't know. It's like you feel like this Rams franchise is just a ingrained rivalry forever and ever because of the no call, like it or not.
Yeah, see, I disagree.
I see Sean McVay and I get aggravated.
See, I don't know. I don't, because it wasn't them. Right? Like, I think there's a much more, I don't know, kind of personal rivalry with Minnesota. Like, if you're looking
for sure,
at a playoff rivalry, because the Rams it's not the Rams' fault. Like, they were just the beneficiary of one of the worst no calls of all time. But it's not like they did anything that was like, he fouled intentionally, right? Like, that's just a play. It's supposed to be called, right? So it's like, I don't know. Like, I thought that would be the case when they went out to LA in 2019, but I didn't feel it. I don't know. I just don't see that as being a rivalry. Whereas like the 49ers, yes, I get that. I feel like the 49ers, even though it was not a playoff game but you just had those in-season games where like, I think Raheem Mostert did like the whole like voodoo thing or whatever. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, it's a big game, but I don't feel that there's a rivalry there personally. I could be wrong. Maybe people.
I have extreme dislike for McVay. I won't say I hate the guy, but yeah, somebody there we go. Rose City put up there, has a punchable face. Totally agree. He's one of those people. And I know there's someone in the Saints media corps that has that punchable face. McVay's like that dude for me too.
Don't say that. People are going to start guessing. Oh, man. I told you I had confidence, Steve.
I didn't say anything. We're just talking about punchable faces.
Yeah. But no, I mean, like, and I know people are going to be like, don't celebrate a 7-7 season. Like, I know someone said that. But, like,
it feels a lot better than 6-8.
I mean, my prediction at the beginning of the season was 10-7. So like 7 losses to me is like, yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be this way. Right. But like, if you can win these final 3 games and get to 10-7, to me, that's like, well, personally, that was what I was expecting. So I don't know. It's like, at what point is it just a season of football where you kind of rode the roller coaster, and are you going to finish on a high? Because in that case, fine. I mean, you just had your best offensive performance in terms of efficiency of the season. Like, if every game had looked like this, you had been like, this is a fantastic success story, right?
Yes.
Like, I get that it hasn't, but I'm not gonna look at this and be negative about it just because like people want that to be true. I don't know.
There are small things you can nitpick. Are we going to be doing? Where are we going with this? Or like what we didn't like, what we did like? I don't know if like the next segment, should I save something kind of thing?
We can do whatever you want, Steve. But
I was just thinking, like, if you're going to nitpick, obviously to me, the one negative in the game for me was the lack of a run game still.
Give or take. Well, let's talk about it. We've been on here for 20 minutes already.
Yeah.
So let's close out this segment, and we'll come back and we'll do the what did/what didn't work. Again, we're going to have a mailbag in the back end. So if you have comments, questions, whatever, throw them in there and we'll get to them. This is Inside Black and Gold. I'm Jeff Nowak. He's Steve Geller. The Saints won.
Hooray!
24-6.
Tied with the Bucks.
Like we can complain all we want.
We're not
This
the
team
Falcons.
has outscored its opponents 52 to 12 in the last 2 weeks. That's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. So we will get into it. This is Inside Black and Gold again. Follow us on Twitter at Saints_pod. You can follow me at Jeff_Nowak. You can follow Steve at Steve Geller WWL. Check out the latest news, notes, and analysis on WWL.com. We will be right back. And we're back on Inside Black and Gold. I'm Jeff Nowak. He's Steve Geller. In this segment, we're going to get into the what did and what did not work in this game. The what didn't work segment is going to be pretty short because it gets a lot of nitpicking. It's mostly just this could have been perfect, and instead it was just okay. But let's start with what we didn't really get into in the last segment, at least in terms of the numbers in what did work, because you can start calling him a Toyota Prius because Mr. Derek Carr was efficient. He completed 83% of his passes. I want to say it was 23 for 28, 218 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. This team, we talked about it to death after the Falcons game, 0 for 5 in the red zone. Well, you know what they've done since that point? They have scored touchdowns on 9 of their 10 red zone trips. The only non-touchdown was the opening drive, or their opening drive against the Panthers, which they settled for a chip shot field goal. It didn't go in. But even that's not an unsuccessful. You're not going to score on 100% of red zone trips, but 90% is pretty freaking good. And, one of the interesting things is, so they changed up their schedule prior to that Lions game in terms of how they integrated the red zone work into their practices, and they've kept it that way. They didn't switch back. So they're still getting red zone work in on Thursdays. And whether it's Jimmy Graham, whether it's running the ball, Juwan Johnson even caught a touchdown that was from 23. So it wasn't red zone, but it's
exactly.
I mean, if the idea is you are in their scoring area and you're scoring a touchdown, I've always thought well, why is there a difference when it's at the 20? The idea is the same, but regardless, I think Carr got a lot of criticism about, for me personally, my criticism was he's not getting the ball out quick enough. He's not being decisive enough. The touchdown to Juwan Johnson, everyone says he doesn't go through his progressions, whatever. I think the issue isn't so much going through progressions. It is looking guys off, right? It's the illusion of going through a progression in the sense that you were starting over to the left, even if your plan is to get back to the right and hit Juwan Johnson up the seam, because you need to influence that safety. It's what he didn't do against the Falcons, and Jesse Bates took him to the house. But this time, if you go back and watch that Juwan Johnson touchdown, it's beautiful. It starts to the left, kind of gives you the shoulder fake, comes back, hits Juwan up the seam, got a double move. And it's those are the types of throws. Those are the types of plays where you're just this is why you're here. These are the plays that we expected you to make all along. And that those are what's been missing, is those elevate the offense type plays, right? And even that throw to Keith Kirkwood, that was a third down. That was a big moment. They ran on first and second down. They made it manageable, and Derek Carr made a play on third down. The Jimmy Graham touchdown, at that point, the Giants were just we don't have any answers. I'm sorry. They just let him go. Hopefully they run it, because we're all playing the run. And if they don't, whatever. But I just think, you can, if you're going to be critical of Derek Carr, fine, but you have to also give him credit when he plays at an elite level, which he did this week. No question about it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the double-edged sword, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, you'd have to give the man his flowers, whatever you want to say, when he has a good game. Obviously, it's kind of funny that you get excited about a 3-touchdown performance when, yeah, we have been really spoiled in the past before by things. But yet, Derek Carr's first 3-touchdown performance as a Saint. Hopefully, it is not the last. Definitely like what we saw today out of him, but it's still got to be done more on a consistent basis, obviously.
Yeah.
And just I don't know. I don't know what happened with this Giants defense. Did not look impressive at all. I wasn't even really feeling like Carr was that impacted, which was impressive because the O-line was hurt, and you didn't even have Ramczyk in this matchup. That to me was another huge surprise in the game, how the O-line honestly held up without Ram in.
Yeah, I was kind of stunned, honestly, at how much time he did have. There was a couple, there was one sack, but I put that on
Right.
Jamal Williams. He missed the block.
Yes.
Another pressure, which I think it was Jawan maybe missed. Like the offensive line, I thought played excellently. Andres Pete, I would say, was probably the weak link in the sense that he had a couple penalties. And no, I mean, I talked to Landon after the game. He didn't even know he was going to start until Saturday. Like that was a legitimate, like they took that. It wasn't like they decided early in the week that Ryan wasn't going to go. He did miss a couple practices, so Landon was able to get the reps in practice, and that helped him a lot. But the interesting thing with Landon is he's been working on both sides of the line. If you go back a couple weeks ago, Andres Pete had to come out of the game, and he was the one who took over at left tackle. And that's, if you ask any offensive lineman, they will tell you that is not an easy thing to do, to switch across the lines. And one thing that he told me is that James Hurst has been helping him in that regard, because James Hurst is a guy who's constantly switching positions. So he's been able to give him kind of some tips and tales. This is country way of saying it, of how he's helped him out. But Landon's a funny guy. He kind of reminds me of Zach Strief in that, like, he's just kind of this late round pick who's just kind of been developing and kind of learning. He's very smart. He explains things very well. He clearly understands what he has to be doing. He's kind of a goofball. And he's got that, that crazy country accent, but Kentucky kid. But he's just he played really well today. And I was worried about it. That was one of my biggest concerns going in, was, are they going to tee off on Landon Young? Because if you remember, against, I want to say it was the Falcons, Ryan Ramczyk had to come out of the game for a play, and Landon went in and immediately gave up a sack. It was like, oh, this is ugly. But no, he had a really nice day, and he's on my list too.
Yeah, that was just one of the things on the pregame and the Bud Light countdown, the kickoff after first take. The Giants, guest came on and basically said, Ramczyk today, you guys are in for it, kind of deal. And I was like, I definitely worried about it too, but it was one of those moments where it was like, oh, this guy's going to rub our face in it. Awesome kind of thing. And outstanding. Definitely A+, super gold star for the O-line today.
It was Dottino, right?
Yes, exactly. Paul Dottino.
Just what he does.
FAN.
Yeah, he's a goof. He's been around forever. But no, I mean, yeah, and this is like, you go back last week and you're like, wow, the offensive line is fighting with the quarterback. This is going to end badly. Well, I think there were, the only fight that happened was between Derek Carr and one of the Giants' assistant coaches, who apparently was calling Garrett a crybaby because he was mad about the intentional grounding, and he was like, he told him to stop complaining, and Derek was like, I don't even know who you are. Like, real Thanos energy going on. But no, I think, like, that was, I expected to be talking all day about, oh, he's getting teed off on back there. You got free rusher after free rusher. You're just making guys. There was a couple free rushers. He got the ball out, and there was a few plays that kind of blown up, mostly in the first half. But a lot of, Tip, in most cases when the Saints went play action, he had all the time in the world. And the only, one of the things that I'll complain about, and it's very nitpicky, is I would like to see the Saints be a little more effective down the field. Like, you didn't really see that. The only time they went downfield was to Rashid, and he kind of lost the ball in the lights, which was a bummer because I thought he had a step. I thought he had a chance to make a play on Deontay Banks there at the goal line. It didn't matter. Like, we talk about, like, you mentioned, like, oh, we only threw 3 touchdown passes. Well, I mean, if they wanted to, they probably could have gone in and scored again. they basically just like sweated out the whole fourth quarter, right? Like, there was no urgency at all in terms of how the Saints operated in that fourth quarter. It was, we have a game to play on Thursday.
Right.
Let's get out of here with as little energy wasted as possible. Alvin talked about that. Alvin, after the game, was like, yeah, it was kind of nice. We were able to just kind of throttle down. You don't like take your foot completely off the gas, but it's like, your defense is playing that well. And it's just like, yeah, the if you can save some tread, you do it in that moment. And the fact that they didn't have to make a 20-point comeback in this game, like they weren't playing from behind all day, in the sense of like, okay, best case scenario going into a Thursday night game, I think you have it. Like the Commanders forced the Rams to play a little harder. Yeah. So not that it's, it's like they still won that game pretty easily. But no, I think the Saints are in good shape, other than Lonnie Johnson got carted off late. Looks like I wouldn't expect, I think he has a pretty significant knee injury, but otherwise I think they got out of that game pretty clean.
Yeah. And hopefully, there wasn't really much usage of Taysom. Hopefully he can get a little bit healthier. I don't know if he's really at 100%, honestly. Definitely saw in this game, though, why he is not your every down quarterback, I think, on the one throw, and then never, ever would they let him throw the football again in this game.
Yeah, he's one of my stock downs, and it's a nitpicking thing. It's probably not fair, but it's Taysom time. Was disappointing today. And it just didn't like it. I think it's like one of my critiques of the Taysom Hill playbook is that it's more predictable than it's ever been. And it's always been predictable, but not to this extent. Not to the point where it's like you're never just running it as like okay, we're getting a light look, we're just going to run Taysom because it's the best option. And it's always like you're running into a stacked box. And they did, that was, it's funny, the play to the miss to Bowden, that play wasn't designed to go to Lynn Bowden. That was a shot play, but they took it away. And we talked early in the week about how, teams have been, running just shell defenses and they're taking the deep ball away. And sometimes you just have to be patient. Like the best option isn't always to force the ball down the field. Even though, you every ounce of you wants to just like pull the trigger, do it, throw the ball. And it's like, yeah, but that guy's standing there asking you to throw the ball. He's like, please throw the ball. And so sometimes you have to just take the check down. And Lynn Bowden, they completely forgot to cover him. He's standing by himself on the sideline. All you got to do is like what you've done thousands of times. It's like, you have the ball in your hand. You need to find a way to get it from your hand into his hand. I know it's not a complicated thing, but sometimes it's just like, oh my God. And he just was not able. He missed him by a whole lot. That wasn't even close. And Lynn is not the most sure-handed individual either. So like, even if you have to, you make him stretch out and make a play on it. It's like, maybe he brings it in, but he probably falls, or he's like, he's not catching it in stride. Like that was nowhere close.
I was gonna say, if you're saying stretch, you may have to say Stretch Armstrong here. You're gonna have to like Plastic Man
standing by himself. It's just so funny to me. That's like you're a professional thrower of footballs, man. That's kind of your thing. But yeah, that was one of the low moments in that game of like, because he had like 20, 30. He's a returner. Like he's a runner. You get him the ball in space there, he might score. I mean, probably not. It's like a 60-yard run, but
it sure seemed like there was a whole lot of room ahead of him.
Well, right. And like he's getting 20, 30 yards easy. And
Easily,
I mean,
right.
Like he's a returner. Like that's his thing. Like he's good at that. You get him in space and let him run. Yeah. I can't remember if they punted. But one of the funny things is like Alvin, he was talking after the game and he said, and this is something that worked in my opinion. Like he said that they stayed in front of the chains and they did to an extent, but I also think that one of the reasons this game went as well as it did on offense was because you were able to convert behind the chains. That first drive of the third quarter, they were in 2nd and 20, and they got a 19-yard completion to Rashid Shaheed on 2nd down, which was actually a 21-yard completion that the refs had a terrible day. One of my Stock Downs is trust in the officiating, because holy hell, they
Nice.
were awful. And Carl Cheffers is typically one of the better officials, right? His crews are typically, on the top end of that chart. Terrible. Anyway, but they were really good. Like, they converted that on, they ended up getting it on third down, I believe. And actually, so I think what happened is they got 19 yards, and then they put Taysom in the game, which was another, like, this is not working kind of Taysom time moment. They got a false start, I think, because I think James Hurst false started because he was trying to send Alvin in motion or whatever. So you ended up in third and six. And then Derek comes in and throws it to Juwan, and then they get a penalty. So you get the first down that way. But you still converted after getting a 2nd and 20. And that's something that, when you can do that, like defenses, when they get 2nd and 20, it's like, you got to get off the field. That's essentially a 3rd and 10, right? Like, if you get a 3rd and 10 on defense, you should get off the field. And then 2nd and 20 is about the same, because you're talking about yards per play and like 8 to 9. And so if you can keep them in that range. He also had a 3rd and 17 that they converted to A.T. Perry. And so, like, those are backbreakers to defenses. And it's just something I don't think you saw earlier in the year, and just the ability to kind of just make big plays when you need them. And so to me, that was a big part of today.
No, I'll definitely take the plays you're talking about. We'll take them all now at the end of the season. Then, I don't know, better late than never kind of deal at this point. I was just happy to see, things went well for the team, and the attitude of the Dome was a whole lot better. And I think we're seeing even like a Rich Vitale in our chat I see pop up. We're all the negative people. It's amazing how something like this can be a little bit of a spark, even for fans who've been so down in the dumps. And shoot, the Who Dat Nation needs this right now for sure.
Yeah, you need games like this. You need games that you win to just inspire confidence, right? And I asked the A about that. I was like, is that being in a rhythm a thing for the defense? And he's like, yeah, confidence. When you're confident, you make plays, and then you make plays, and you're more confident, and it just you build on that, right? Like, when you're not confident out there, it shows. And I think particularly in the run game, and that's, the defensive line in general, you can pretty much name whoever you want on the defensive line. They had a good day. They had a good day today. Tano Passanio.
Yeah.
I see a guy walking around the locker room, and if you didn't know anything, and you just had all the defensive linemen line up, and you were like, just ask somebody off the streets, like, which one of these guys do you think is the perennial all pro? And I guarantee you, like 10 out of 10 times it'd be like, it's that guy, because he is a behemoth, right? Like, he is terrifying. And I asked Colin, because Colin played with him in Kansas City. Colin knows him well. Colin's like, they're like best friends. Tano is this really kind of unique individual, right? Like, he's quiet. He's very cerebral. Like, he does graphic design. So Colin makes music, and Tano Passanio designs his cover art and art, like the art for his like singles and his album.
Nice.
So like it's just a unique, very individual, but he's also this hulking behemoth of a man. And Colin was like, yeah, we know it's in there. Look at the guy. He's terrifying. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you kind of like have been waiting. It's like, okay, give me some moments here. Give me some flash. And like, he's lining up against Andrew Thomas, and he was winning today. And I just think like that offensive line or the defensive line, they needed to stop the run better. They did that. They needed to rush the passer better. They did that. They needed to tackle the quarterback when they got opportunities. They did that. Zach Bond, he could have had 3 sacks today. He missed, but he got there first multiple times, and he set up situations where Tano or somebody else could come in and clean it up. It was excellent. Everything about that was excellent. And again, it's like we can say, okay, the Giants' offensive line sucks, and it does. Like, they lead the NFL in sacks allowed. But go back to last week and watch the Packers fail to get a sack for 4 quarters of football, right? Like, that's why they lost the game, because they couldn't get pressure. Tommy DeVito ran all day, and you got to give the Saints credit. And I think you're seeing a group that's kind of figuring it out. And, it helps when you go against the Panthers and the Giants, right? Like, they're terrible, both teams, in terms of protecting the passer. But at a certain point, it's like you just have a plan that works. And I think one of the things that has really helped this group kind of coalesce over the last month is Cam Jordan accepting a role as a run downs defensive end. Now, it's not like you're just demoting him. Part of that is due to the fact that he's still kind of working back from a pretty significant ankle injury. But I think what that has allowed is Cam is fully engaged and rested for rundowns. And he's able to do what he's always been one of his best skills in terms of playing the run, right? Early downs. You're still able to get after the passer, but there's certain responsibilities that you have to do on first and second down that are not the same as 3rd and 9. And then you are able to bring Zach Bond on the field when you are able to stop the run and force 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12. Then you get Zach Bond on the field, and he is able to be that situational pass rusher. And I just think it works so much better. It's what I was asking for. You've heard me say this. Like, I think you need to pare down Cam's snaps because I don't think he's a 3-down defensive end anymore. And that's just what happens when you get into your mid-30s as a defensive end. And I think like Cam's ability to play 100% of the snaps was negatively impacting the overall, like the top line production of that unit. But I think what you have right now is a very optimal setup. And the important thing is Cam embracing that role because he's a leader in that role. And not everyone is the type of personality that would be like, you know what, I'm a run player right now. That's what we're going to do. So I think, like, to me, it's like I give Cam a lot of credit. I give everyone in that room a lot of credit because I think that it's a group that has worked together and kind of found a way. And so hopefully that continues.
Yeah, obviously, you know that's just something with Cam. It's ingrained in him. Football is life, and he wouldn't come off the field if he was given the choice at all.
Yeah, and I asked Cam in the locker room last week. It was like, okay, what has that been for you to kind of like embrace that role as kind of a mentor to Zach Bond? Because there was a clip on the mic'd up package where he's like kind of working with him on like hand technique and shedding technique. And he was just like, I don't have to embrace anything because it's just who I am. It's what I've always been. And he's right. Like that is like, he's not being like, he's not making anything up. Like, he genuinely is. He's been a leader in that room for a long time. But I think there's also like just a level of unselfishness that exists there that's worth mentioning. And I get, like, he is still a very effective defensive end. And one thing that this defense had struggled in both of those areas, stopping the run and rushing the passer, and kind of accepting that you don't have to do both of those things has helped them. So, obviously going against the Giants and Panthers every week, if you did that, you would lead the NFL in sacks. You might set a record, but you got to start somewhere.
All I got to say is we bitched about the red zone offense not connecting enough, where that's starting to hit now. Now this game, the stopping the run and the fact that you were able to pressure the quarterback as well and contain a guy too that was mobile. That's happened. So more positives. And I know I've seen people saying, relax guys, it's just 7-7, or look at the team you were playing kind of thing. I know it's all we can base anything off of is who they play. So it is what it is.
These are the teams that you have to beat. Right? Like, you're not playing the 49ers. You're not playing the Cowboys. And I get it. Those are the teams that you're going to have to beat in the playoffs, but you don't worry about the teams you have to beat in the playoffs until you get to the playoffs. And right now, you just have to beat these middle-of-the-road teams. You might not be excited about 7-7, but the team that you have to go out and beat on Thursday, you know what their record is? 7-7. So it's like, are you better than that team? Because this is your chance to prove it, right? Are you better than the Panthers? Yes, and you proved it. Are you better than the Giants? Yes, and you proved it, right? Like, these are the games that when you're struggling, when you're not winning games, this is where you don't get it done.
Well, what hurts obviously is then you're like, well, what the hell happened with the Falcons game?
You didn't score in the red zone. Right. That's what happened. And like, DA's kind of like, he had this really weird defense of Derek Carr today. I'm gonna I guess I'll play it. Let's play it.
Hit it.
And they understand what's at stake. And they had a good week of practice and went out and played well. And I thought some guys, had to step up. Landon Young stepping up in place of Ryan Ramczyk. I thought, overall, I thought the protection was really good. I don't know if I'm getting questions about the quarterback this week, but I thought the quarterback played really well. So we'll make sure we get that on record. It was, effective, game in all three phases.
Is that the best game that Derek has played all season, probably?
Well, look, probably statistically, 218 yards probably is not, nobody's, jumping off the table with 218 yards, but 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I thought the protection again was outstanding in the game. Gave him some opportunities to get the ball down the field. A 134 quarterback rating. I thought he played well, and I thought the players around him played well.
You brought up the quarterback. We didn't ask. Are you irritated by the amount of criticism that he gets?
I just think it's unfair. My personal opinion, but I know everybody's got the right to their own opinion. But I thought he played really good in this game, and I think just like with everything else, I think when you play that position, you're going to get your fair share of criticism, and when somebody plays really good, I think we need to make sure we recognize that he played well.
Dennis, we were going to ask you about the quarterback.
Just want to make sure we put it out there that you recognize a good performance.
You don't have to make this weird, right? What did you think was going to happen? We were going to be like, he's just, whatever. What are you talking?
7 sacks, big defensive day.
Don't make it weird, Dennis. And I'm saying Dennis like this for a reason. You think we weren't going to ask about the quarterback? He didn't give anyone a chance. It was like the third question. Anyway, it's also, it's not a good, I hate that answer. I hate that he said that, because it's just frustrating, because let the man fight his own battles, first of all. Second of all, you're not doing him any favors. You're just giving people ammunition to say he's treated differently than everybody else, because you're going out here and just unsolicited being just so you know, the quarterback played. Don't do that. That's not helping anyone, first of all, because Derek did have a good day. That was going to come up on its own. You made it weird. And just the decisions he makes and the things he chooses to say constantly baffle me. And it's a very personal thing. And if you wonder whether he treats the reception of Derek Carr as an extension of him as a coach, that's the answer, because he clearly does. Because when he's saying it's unfair to Derek, he's really taking that on himself and saying you're being unfair to everybody because you're being overly critical of the quarterback. You're a quarterback. You're going to get criticism, right? Now, the boos, probably a little much. And I think that's more so what that's about than criticism of the quarterback. But it just looks bad, and I don't like it. And I'll leave it at that. We kind of came full circle here. But I just thought that answer was just, come on.
I much preferred hearing from Carr in the post game and him being a lot looser, making jokes about things, and just definitely being more open and better about it than DA was. Making even jokes about getting into fights with, like you said, with a coach instead of a teammate this time around.
One of their coaches kept yelling at me, from their sideline. I was like, I don't know who you are, bro. Why are you talking to me? So I did have one fight today, but it wasn't with a teammate. So,
right, that's the personality that you want to come across, not like this
Right,
weird
making a little jab
unsolicited.
about it, like, "Oh, you made a big deal about the fight. See, it wasn't a big deal. I can make a joke about it. Ha 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 ha."
Right. He's an adult. He can fight his own battles. Right. Now, if we asked you whether you think the criticism is fair and you want to answer, that's fine. I don't know. I just thought it was weird, and I don't like that. That's the hill he chose to climb up on in this kind of game, in this atmosphere. It's like, pick your battles, man. Pick your battles.
I definitely think it definitely hits with Allen a lot more personal with Carr because obviously that's his dude. Clearly.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But all right, let's wrap that up. I think we went through a lot here. One other thing I'll mention: A.T. Perry. I think he's building trust with Derek, and I think there was a couple plays in this game that you saw that happen. You know, that third down conversion. There was another throw over the middle of the field that was a little behind him, and he hauled it in. Like, one thing that Da said is like, so Derek didn't play perfectly, but like when he needed someone to step up and make a play, they made a play, and that makes your quarterback's going to look a lot better because you're not going to see in the stat sheet, well, that wasn't a perfect pass, but the receiver made a play on it. Yeah, you know, it's like that's what you want. Like, that's what you need. And I thought A.T. Perry did a good job of doing that today. And you know, I think that weird play in Atlanta really damaged that kind of building trust. And I think you've seen over the last couple games the big play downfield against the Panthers. You know, the couple nice throws today. He went to him in the end zone. He forced the pass interference. I just think like his A.T. Perry has been a guy that I've been very encouraged by over the last few weeks. But that's it. Do you have anyone else you want to mention? Anything else before we move on?
Yeah, I was just trying to think of anything. I think another I guess a significant performance from Howden had a decent game, I thought. And then also looking at even Yadam keeps adding to his passes defense. I'm not sure what the number is up to this year, but you might have mentioned it last podcast or whatever. Somebody's going to pay this dude, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be the Saints either.
They're not going to be able to afford him.
Right, exactly.
No, I mean, the secondary, you know, I kind of take the secondary for granted. I shouldn't, but I do because they've just been so good so consistently. But yeah, Ike played well again. Paulson did the job, right? Like, they're just so consistent that you kind of forget about them. Yeah, it's Tyrann Mathieu, Jordan Howden both played well. Again, Lonnie Johnson left with that injury. You know, Nephi Sewell was out there for a couple snaps. He's the Sam linebacker now, which is interesting. With Zach Bond in that pass rusher role. But yeah, a lot to like from this defense the last 2 weeks. It's funny because it's like this is the defense that you saw in the beginning of the year. Like that kind of like, well, they're dominating. And then we kind of like, so if you get this type of defense the final 3 weeks, I think you'll be feeling a lot better about yourself. But all right, this is Inside Black and Gold. We're going to come back to a mailbag segment. I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Steve Geller. Thanks everyone who's hanging out. We will be right back. All right. A lot of comments in here.
Happy positive comments.
Has higher percentage than usual. Let's put it that way. Not perfect, but no, never is. That's fine. I would if everyone was happy, I would worry that I've been plucked out of my reality and placed into a simulation. And maybe that would be happier, but let's see.
I didn't realize for the Commanders that Brissett came in that Rams game.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did Howell get hurt, or did they just bench him?
I don't know. I definitely got to look it over more, but it looks like Howell was having a terrible game, and Brissett just came in, went 8 of 10 with 2 touchdowns. Amazing.
Well, I did think it was funny earlier in the year. Everyone was like, "Oh, Sam Howell's the truth because he's leading the league in passing yards." I was like, "They're losing every game. That's how you lead the league in passing yards."
Right, he passes 50 times a game. Right.
Right. Like that doesn't mean you're good. It just means you're throwing constantly. Like Andy Dalton had a game where he threw 58 times this year. Not even exaggerating. He started one game, threw 58 times. They lost, but he had a lot of yardage. So here, wait. And we're back on Inside Black and Gold. I'm Jeff Nowak. He's Steve Geller. We're going into Mailbag for a quick Mailbag segment. One guy we have not talked about nearly enough throughout that first What Did Work segment. And I honestly feel bad because we should have. It was so just Demario Davis completely changed that game in the first half in terms of this is a guy who it's like every time I in my brain, this idea creeps up that I was like, oh, he's in his mid-30s. He's starting to fall off. Maybe he just doesn't have it anymore. Maybe he's finally reached that kind of cliff where it could exist for everybody. But apparently not for Demario because he came out in this game like the Predator, just like he was everywhere. He would just be climbing out of trees and just sniping you from across the map, right? Just no scopes all day long. And he was on fire. He even gave you the Kamehameha, the Dragon Ball Z thing. I love Demario. I love watching Demario play, and I'm gonna miss him very much when he inevitably is retired. Which I don't know when it's gonna happen. It's like you'd think it's like, wow, he's got to be getting close, but who knows? Maybe he'll play another 5 years. I don't know. Either way, he was dominant in this game. And I think when you're talking about a defense, defense is so much about belief and energy and confidence. And when he's playing that way, this team is different. It just is.
Yeah, he definitely has looked, pretty much, I don't know. He dealt with an injury early on, right, in the season. But
it's a knee injury in Houston, and he played through it. The doctors gave him a 0% chance to play the whole thing, But
of late, really, Demario has been a huge shining star of late, and I guess you do often take performances like this for granted, I guess, because, like you said, it's like we didn't even freaking mention his name.
Right, your expectations for him are so he outperformed.
Oh,
those,
yeah.
by how much, right? Whereas I had my expectations for Landon Young were oh no, what's going to happen? So it's that's kind of when you're talking about my stock in Demario is already so high, in that context. But either way, he had a monster game. So I'm glad he was brought up in the comments here. One other weird thing that a bunch of people have been talking about, and I'm very curious. I'm going to ask DA about it, and I think we have a Zoom call on Monday. Is a lot of people have been saying that they saw Derek Carr talking to Ronald Curry, and was Curry calling plays. What I'll say here is I think people are overreacting to the idea that Derek Carr is talking to Ronald Curry. Ronald Curry is the quarterback's coach. They talk a lot. That's what he does. He coaches Derek Carr specifically. That's why Doug Marone's talking to the offensive lineman, right? And Todd Grantham's talking to the defensive lineman. That's what they do. That said, he did have a play sheet, which I don't know if he typically does have a play sheet in his hands, which is interesting. And I think that's definitely a good observation because I wasn't paying attention to it in terms of I was just, I don't stare at the sideline. I watch the game. But I don't like look. It's like, oh, I wonder. Oh, he's talking a lot into that headset. I wonder what he's doing. But it's very possible that maybe they made a play caller change and didn't tell anybody. I would be surprised, but I'm not going to rule it out. Like I had someone ask, he was like, "Did you see anyone else wandering around with play sheets?" And it was like, "No," but I also wasn't looking for it. Like that's just not something I'm clocking when I'm on the sideline. There's a lot going on, and so like I'm not going to pretend I have any insight into that situation because it's just not something that I was looking for. But it's something I'll ask DA about tomorrow because I think it's interesting because the offense did seem to flow, and you hit a couple plays that it was like, oh, you're calling screens now. You're running play action. Oh, you're motioning. What's going on? Why is this what it is? Is Pete in his bag, or maybe something changed? So I don't know. Like I do think it's interesting. It's a good observation. But I think DA will like. It's one of those things. It's like it's not like under lock and key. It's kind of like if it did happen and we ask him about it, he will tell us, right? Because it's not going to be something he can keep a secret once you start looking for it. And so on Thursday, if I'll be paying more attention to that. But it's interesting. And if they did, because it's like I've been asking for this, so I would be supportive if that is the case. But I can't sit here and tell you that it is.
Yeah, it still wasn't even anything that was this amazing, squeaky clean machine that ran today. But when you hit 10 different receivers and put up 3 passing touchdowns, yeah, I'll take it.
I just think there was a rhythm today, and whoever called it doesn't matter. Like I think the way the offense ran today was effective, particularly in the second half. And that's the only reason that I think, it's hard to rule out Pete because this has been a team that has been slow starting, but then in the second halves of games has been really effective. Like look at the Lions game, right? They scored long touchdown. They had long touchdown drives in their first 2 second half possessions, right? Like you look at the Titans game, right? Like they had 3 points in the first half. You look at the first Panthers game, they had 6 points in the first half. You look at the second Panthers game, they had 7 points in the first half, I believe. And they kind of picked it up late. And so who knows? But I do think it's interesting and it's something I'll definitely look into. But I do think it's like I've had multiple people say, "Well, he was talking to Ronald Curry." It's like that's not unusual in the slightest. Like that's literally what Ronald Curry is there to do, to coach Derek Carr. And occasionally Jameis or Jake, but it's like of all the position coaches, Ronald only has one quarterback to coach at any given time. Like if you're Doug Marrone and it's like, yeah, you have all of these offensive linemen that you have to kind of deal with individually and then as a collective, like he's like, it's one guy. So they're going to talk. And he's giving them tips and he's the pass game coordinator too. So it's not like he has no involvement in the play calling. Like he's like, if he has an idea and he tells Pete and Pete's the one calling the plays, he's still going to take that. So I don't know. It's interesting, but it is something that I would love to see and I've asked for. So we'll see.
Talking about a different quarterback, were you aware of anything with Jameis in his suitcase?
What do you mean?
Apparently he carried in like an empty suitcase with him and then gave like some kind of speech saying basically what only what's in here is what can stop us. And he opened it up and it's like nothing was in there. There's nothing can stop us. A typical Jameis thing. I didn't know if like you were like any kind of witness to this. All I've seen is a video of him walking in with the suitcase.
In the locker room?
No, like walking in on the field, I think before the game.
No, I don't know about this.
Okay. Yeah, you have to like Google or
but it
Twitter
does sound on brand. It does sound like a thing Jameis would do.
I just thought it was kind of amusing, but yeah, he's like the eternal hype man.
Yeah, he is a hype man. I love Jameis. Jameis and Lynn Bowden. I think people underestimate how you talk about glue guys. Like, what does a glue guy mean? I take it to mean like guys who are just everywhere and they're involved in everything and they're like emotional leaders and they just like everyone, they hype everything up. Like they get involved in positive ways in like every facet of the game. And I think Lynn is that guy. Like, I think he's one of those guys, right? Like, like CJ Gardner-Johnson was kind of like the guy that just got you hyped up, right? Like those are important guys. And I think Lynn is that guy on offense. And like, obviously Jameis is that too, but it's hard to be that when you're not playing. Like there's only so much you can do when you're not playing. And I just like, go look at like any touchdown celebration photo. And I guarantee you'll be looking and you'll be like, there's Lynn. I found him. He's there. He's in the background. Oh, there he is again. I just think it's funny because I really do enjoy Lynn. I asked Landon if that's just always been Lynn Bowden, and he said, yeah, that's because they played together at Kentucky. And so did Lonnie Johnson was the teammate of theirs too. I didn't realize that until today.
Wow, that's an interesting, trio right there.
Yeah, a lot of Kentucky guys. Yeah,
right.
And then Wan'Dale Robinson on the other side was a Kentucky guy. Yeah, a lot of Wildcats. Here's one. Dre Day says, why DA act like it's the team against the fan base? We want Carr to succeed. One question, what is DA's record as a head coach? That's bad. I mean, as a Saints head coach, so he was 7-10 last year. So that makes him 14-17. Is that right? Yeah, 14-17.
You got to give him the credit for the COVID one that he did for Sean, or no?
I guess we could.
Throw that in there. Throw him a bone, right?
So he'd be 15-17 as the Saints head coach. Yeah. I don't think that technically does count. Like, I think just in terms of like, and I mean that in the sense of like if you're looking at like the official head coaching record, right, like what's in the NFL record book, I don't think it would count. But if you do count it, you'd be 15-17. And like to me, like that's the number that matters. Like I don't really care what happened with the Raiders. Everyone wants to bring it up because it's a sexy number, just like everyone wants to say 150 for Derek Carr. And it's like that's really not the discussion that needs to be had. It's what's happening now. And I just like, yeah, even if you go 10-7, you're still 500 as the head coach of the Saints. But still, like, I just think the ability to get to the playoffs and have a positive season would be big. But I agree. Like, I don't like this. I don't like. That's why I brought up the Derek Carr thing and this weird kind of like unprompted defense of the quarterback. It's like you want the fans on your side. It's like the fans want to be happy. At least a majority of them. There are some fans out there who are being toxic and they're just rooting for everything to fail. And I don't know what you do with that, but like you can't approach that as like the dynamic that you're trying to solve. Like you want the atmosphere in the dome today to be the atmosphere in the dome all the time. Like ideally with fewer Giants fans. But I think like I agree. I think one of my main criticisms for Dennis Allen is he just seems unprepared to put forward the correct message at the correct time. And there is a art form to that, and not everyone has it. But I just thought that was a miss. Like the tone he went with today was a miss. And so I think that's an interesting comment.
Number one Carr stan.
Me, the number one Derek Carr stan. I got Derek for a walk-off interview today. It's nice.
That was a big time get.
That's what you get from that's why I'm a Carr stan. That way when I get him on the field, he'll talk to me.
Next thing you know, it'll be like amazing. You'll be like getting Michael Thomas to speak out on the sidelines next.
And it's the easiest type of stand to be because all I have to say is I don't think he's an axe murderer, and that makes me like number one Derek Carr fan. Edward O'Nuss driver, I think it's like a O'Nuss bus driver, like a Garrett Nussmeier fan account here. Says, "Be honest, y'all thought we'd lose this game," and I did not. I had said I told multiple people, you can ask around. I've been like, I think the Saints are going to win this game by double digits. Because the Giants aren't a good football team. And partially that was me projecting in terms of like, please win this game by double digits. It just need a game like this. You need a game where you just win comfortably. and they did. So yeah, but you can attest to this. I was pretty confident going in that the Giants were bad, and they would not win this game.
I definitely wasn't confident in the Saints win, and I definitely didn't think that they would cover. Hell no.
And they did. Vegas knows what they're doing, apparently. Danny Teo forces this was Carr's best game.
As a
yeah,
Saint?
I'd probably agree with that.
Yeah, it has to be his best game as a Saint.
Well, I mean, he was pretty good against the Colts. I think he threw
for
for
sure.
more yards. But I think from an efficiency perspective, like he had a turnover in that game. It was a fumble. It wasn't, it's like, the protection broke down. But yeah, I mean, probably from start to finish in terms of like, this was a Drew Brees-like game. And I don't throw that out.
No, I know what you mean because of the accuracy, the
efficiency,
completion percentage, and then spreading out the wealth to everybody. That's why it still felt like Pete's hand there because it felt like old days there. That's why I'm not so sure if it was, a change in play calling or did Pete dip way, way, way back into the crates.
Well, and I say that, because I say that in the sense of like a 2018 Drew Brees type game, like not the dynamic 5,000 yard passer Drew Brees, but like the efficient, we're going to win this game by double digits and I'm going to just complete all my passes like the Colts game, right? Like the where he like set a record for completion percentage or whatever, right? Like that type of game, like that, the stretch of games, like if you played like this for an extended period of time, you would win from between 12 and 14 games every year because that's what Drew did for 4 seasons in a row, playing exactly like Derek played today. Now, again, like I said, I'd like to see him be a little more aggressive down the field. But like if that's your baseline, this team is way better than it's been for a majority of the season. And part of it's like, yeah, he's a new quarterback. Like this is his first year in the system. I think everyone kind of like just passes that idea off as if like, wow, whatever. But like that, it does take time. And so I'd like to think that this is a sign that he's getting more comfortable. And you'll have more days like this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think there's this idea that he should be perfect from day one, and that was never realistic. Meether Pie, do you all think Chris Olave will play Thursday night? I do. Because he was close today. Will he be 100%? Like, I think the question is, how effective will he be? And like, is he still feeling the lingering effects of that injury? But keep in mind, after that game, you have 10 days off. So if it's a matter of him kind of gritting through something, I think you're way more likely to see it in that game than you were in this game, knowing that if you played him today, you probably lose him on Thursday.
If I'm fortunate enough to make it into the next round of the fantasy playoffs, please, Chris, come back. We need you and miss you. It was tough to have you on the bench today.
Poor guy.
I know he cares about
PBM.
my fantasy team above all.
Yeah, I've kind of given up on my fantasy teams. I think I'm in a 6-way tie for 4th place in one league, and I'm not going to make the playoffs because only 4 teams make the playoffs. PBM 8264. I was sporting my Carr jersey and pulling for my QB today in the Dome. Yeah, I think one thing that I was happy about as that game kind of went on, because I get it. I get the Derek Carr frustration and I get the boos. Like, I think some of them are unfair, but whatever. I was happy to see that the fans responded to what was objectively a very, very good day for the quarterback. Right? Like, if every time it not every drive is going to end in a touchdown. Right? But that doesn't mean the quarterback had a bad day. Sometimes it's a penalty, sometimes it's this and that. Like, he wasn't perfect, but I think I was happy to see the crowd kind of embraced the day and that performance in terms of it was a great day on offense. It was a great day overall. And it wasn't like, oh, you punted in the third quarter up 10 points. And it's like, we're going to boo, I think that the crowd today was the energy was very good. It was not like a toxic energy. Like, I think there was kind of in that Lions game a little bit. And so I'm happy about that. Like, I enjoy when people are having a good time. I don't think Jimmy Buffett. I am curious. Do you think the Jimmy Buffett thing works? I'm not sure the Jimmy Buffett thing works.
I might have missed. What is the Jimmy Buffett thing?
Oh, you weren't there. Yeah. So between the third and fourth quarters, randomly they decided to play Margaritaville, and they did it in week 1, and it was like because Jimmy Buffett died.
Yeah.
And it was like a tribute to Jimmy Buffett. But I think they're trying to make it into like the, kind of, like the, like like Florida Gators games, they play, the Tom Petty song, not Free Fallin', but won't back down. Yeah. And like, but the energy there is like super, it's like, yeah. Or like at Alabama games, they play, I can't remember the name of the song, but like you get it. Like they have all these. No. They play. I can't recall, but it's like everyone gets hyped. It's the hype song. It's like you're getting into it for the fourth quarter. It gets the crowd all jazzed up to like yell and scream and be crazy. Yeah, it's just the energy from Margaritaville just doesn't work for that.
Makes me maybe want to kick back one or two, but that's about it.
Right, and so I'm not sure I buy it.
You need like some kind of techno upbeat, I don't know, something that gets you moving.
Well, like they had Choppa Style, and that feels like it's kind of falling off. Like I don't know if I buy if you can keep bringing Choppa Style back. Although people still get hyped for Choppa Style.
Wait, didn't we have Yin Yang Twins were in the house?
They were.
They got to come back every week and get crunk.
Stand up and get crunk. That one will never
go away. Go away. You can't deny.
Pammy Whammy here. So we were talking about whether the Saints fans hate the Rams, and Pammy Whammy says that they like me, but they hate LA. So I guess there is some lingering resentment for. But is it LA or is it the Rams? Like, do you just hate the idea of LA, or do you hate the Rams specifically? Like, I also hate the Lakers, right?
Yeah.
Like LA as a concept, I can get on board with. In terms of I don't like that.
It's easy for me to dislike LA with not even so much LeBron, but AD
Davis.
Oh man, right? Davis, man, forget about it.
But is it the Rams specifically?
Yes, it's Rams. That's the helmet, and it's McVay's face.
There you go, McVay has a face from Rose City D. You heard M3 me.
There you go. McVay has a punchable face. Perfect.
There's 82 comments in here, and so I'm going to try to go through them. Lehman Park says, I noticed Jeff smiles when he's upset. See, I don't get upset. When have I been upset? Do I get angry? I don't feel like I get angry about this stuff. I think that's why people get annoyed, because they try to make me angry, but you're just like, it's like a Teflon over here. Like I'm just.
No, yeah, there's certain things that we're numb to at this point that I don't know if anyone here is going to make you mad. That's for sure.
Michael Mitchell says, I never noticed RC with a call sheet before. And like that to me, I can't, that's the thing that's bothering me is I can't recall whether he would have held a call sheet. Like it's not something that he definitely wouldn't do, but I do think it's interesting. So it's something to look into. Pull My Finger, number 1, says it's California as a whole that they hate, which like it's a pretty big swath of the country. I don't like that. Like it's wide. I guess it's tall. It's long. So it's a big area. It's a lot of ground to cover.
I haven't spent enough time, but I also don't have the money to spend the time out there.
Yeah, well, we will be out there on Thursday, and I'm gonna hang around.
That should be fun.
All right, I'm gonna try to find one more good comment, and then we'll get out of here. And when I say good, I just mean not live in Park.
So today was like the Tano / tight end game.
Yeah. The Tide Tanos.
That's the thing that'll make you nuts with this team too. Carr goes out, has a performance like today. Boom, your number one guy, Chris Olave. The guy's not even around playing. What? You'd never guess that. Oh, yeah, your best offensive line. He's not playing either. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, your top
All right.
corner's out.
What about him?
Lattimore.
What?
Lattimore.
What about the
I know he's just missing right now too. We're gonna see him before the end of the season, you think?
Lattimore?
Yeah.
It's tough. I think it's possible. So here you go. Okay, so Meets Price says winning on the road on Thursday night is hard as hell. And yeah, I think that's a good question. How do you feel about that game? Let's close on that. Because I feel like, yes, it's a tough game to win, but I feel a lot better about it going in on a 2-game win streak, right?
And I'm happy to know. I know that Aaron Donald is dealing with, I think, a groin issue, right?
It's so mean. It's a human being, Steve.
It's someone that can inflict a lot of pain on the team that I'm hoping wins. So
True, he broke Drew Brees' thumb that one time.
Yeah, he's definitely someone that can be that constant nuisance that would be a problem for us. Obviously,
I like the idea that it's Matt Stafford and not like if I had a must-win game and it's like Lamar Jackson that I have to go out and face. I don't feel good.
I like Stafford as a quarterback.
I like Stafford as a quarterback too, but for a team that struggles, to put it lightly, against quarterbacks that are going to run around, I would much prefer to have the quarterback who's not going to run around. And this isn't the Lions where they have the best run game in football. They can run the ball. Kyron Williams has been good, but they're not going to plow it down your throat the way the Lions did, right? And I think if hopefully in this kind of what I'm alluding to here with the pass rush, right? If the pass rush can continue to get home and make life miserable on a quarterback, then at least you know where he's going to be. And so for a matchup, if I'm going into a game, a must-win game that's difficult, I got to go on the road on a short week, I think you would much prefer it to be a pocket-bound quarterback, right? Like if this is like a Joe Flacco or a Matt Stafford or whatever, I feel good about it. So that's my kind of glass half full look of like, if you can get to Matt Stafford, you can get him down. He's not dodging anybody. So.
Yeah, for me, the name Stafford, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, it's a lot, and it's definitely a huge challenge. I'm not saying it's not winnable, but it's just scary to think short week on the road, left coast, that travel time. I'm curious if the Saints end up leaving Tuesday or is it going to be Wednesday? I just don't like the matchup as a whole either, just because just Sean McVay, I feel, is a coach that will end up outdoing what the Saints are capable of thinking on offense. I know the guy, I don't want to call him the offensive mastermind, but I know he's going to come up with something pretty damn good to go against DA kind of thing.
We'll see. Cooper Nacua and Puka Kupp can get the job done.
Right. That's just a deadly duo, man. That's brutal.
Names.
I don't even know who their tight end though is right now. Higbee?
I think it's Gerald
Everett.
It's
anybody that's scary.
Gerald Everett? I don't know. We'll see. Either way, we'll get it done. We'll have plenty of time to talk about this. We'll probably do the midweek episode.
No, we won't have plenty of time. It's a short week.
That's a good point. We'll probably do the midweek episode on Tuesday. Either way, thanks everyone for hanging out. We are going to close this sucker down. Thanks everyone for hanging out, everyone for listening. This is Inside Black and Gold. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. If you haven't, left us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, please do that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at WWL Sports. Check out WWL.com for the latest news, notes, and analysis. And otherwise, be easy, y'all. Who dat? Go Saints.
Let's go for 3 in a row.
You got it. All right, y'all. Be easy. Peace.